Welcome everybody to today's installment of the Boolean Coding Week. Today we're actually taking a little bit of a pause in the lessons that we've been doing and the projects that we've been doing, and instead we're going to focus, we're going to do an open day where we're going to focus a little bit more about Boolean, the Tech Academy, who we are, what we do, the courses, the training courses that we offer, and we're going to talk to you a little bit more about kind of how we can support you if you're looking to move into a career into tech. Whether that be through coding or through data, how we can support you to do that. So that's the aim of today's session. We're joined by a few people who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. But just as a quick reminder, this is where we are in the coding week. We've already done HTML and CSS on Monday. We did JavaScript on Tuesday. We built our first project with tic-tac-toe yesterday with Nathan. Thank you to everyone who came along to that. Hope it was lots of fun. Today, we're doing the open day. And tomorrow we're going to be finishing off the week with Space Invaders, the final project, which Ed's going to be leading.
Really the best project, yes.
It does look really cool, to be fair. I'm quite tempted to code along with that one. I did most of tic-tac-toe, but I think Space Invaders might get me to the end. So yeah, welcome again to everybody. Maybe before we just roll on, there are a few questions in the chat already, so I better get started with this. Number one, it will be recorded, so we will share this, and this will be posted tomorrow, so you can watch it back. Number two, if you've tried to register your attendance this week and it hasn't worked, all of the links have been shared in the Discord community server, so please just scroll back up through there and you'll be able to find the link. If you search for the word Typeform, that word always appears in the link. So please just use that if you're looking to register attendance. Number three, this one does not count. Today does not count towards your attendance for the certificate. This one is specifically aimed at people who are thinking about potentially taking these skills even further and maybe starting a career in tech, in coding, or in data. So that's kind of the focus of today's session. So it's not compulsory for the certificate, but obviously if you're interested in learning more about Boolean or learning more about how you can turn these skills that you're hopefully enjoying learning this week into something more full-time, then please stick around, because we'll be excited to talk to you about it. Cool. That being said, welcome everybody, welcome back everybody. It's super lovely to have so many of you join us today. So you've met us before, I think most of you, but my name is Patrick, kind of in charge of everything that isn't really teaching here at Boolean in the UK. And with me is, on the Boolean staff side of things, is Ed. I want to say a quick word.
Hi folks, my name is Ed. I'm head of teaching here at Boolean UK. You've been hopefully some sessions with us this week on Monday with me, Tuesday, Wednesday with Nathan, one of my fantastic teachers. They're all fantastic. And then Friday you'll have me again for Space Invaders. So I'll chat with you a little bit more today about the courses, and again tomorrow about how we build Space Invaders. But yeah, back to you, Patrick.
Awesome. We're also joined by two of our former students, alumni today, Nico and Alex. We're going to say hello to them in just a moment, but we're just going to do a quick introduction to Boolean, and then we're going to have a little bit of a chit chat with them. So if you bear with us in one sec, we'll introduce the other two people on the call with us today. But first, let's talk through what we're going to cover today. So a quick introduction to who we are and what we do, a bit of a deep dive into the courses we have on offer, a big talk about the career services as well, which is an important part of what we do. We're going to talk about the financing options that are available for the course, and then we're going to hand over to a Q&A. There is a question function in the chat. During the talk, we'll try and answer questions where we can, but some of them, or maybe most of them, we'll try and get to at the end. This session, we've got booked out till 6:30, so there's plenty of time, and we'll hopefully get around to all of your questions during the session. But feel free to fire away as we're going along. Great. So who are we? We've sort of mentioned this, I think, a few times already, but essentially we operate as an international tech academy. And what this means is we help people to start new careers in both coding and data by providing live and online training, followed by 6 months of career support. So the point is there's this training piece, there's also this career support piece, and it's all focused in the tech industry with live and online training. So you can learn from the comfort of your home, but this isn't one of those on-demand, download some tutorials. This is live teaching with live teachers. Alive teachers. Sounds weird, that, doesn't it? Some numbers about us, you've seen some of these on other slides, but this is some slight differences on this one as well. So we have enrolled over 2,000 students to date at Boolean across Italy and the UK. Italy is where we started 4 years ago. We launched in the UK about 2 years ago now. The average salary here in the UK of a Boolean grad is £31,000. So we're going in on a pretty decent level if you finish the course and move into a career afterwards. We have a range of courses that vary in the number of weeks of training from 13 to 26. If you've looked at other bootcamp providers, you'll see most of them operate around 9, 10, 11, 12 sort of weeks of training. So our minimum is 13 and our maximum actually goes up to 26. So there's plenty of material that we cover during the time with us. And regardless of which course you study, you'll always get the 6 months of career support afterwards. So that's a really important part of the things that we do here. Just a little bit of a nutshell. Before we kind of dive into what we do, I just wanted to kind of focus a little bit on why we think we stand out, especially there's a lot of different providers, a lot of different training academies. There's obviously universities, there's obviously sort of, you know, code academy and that kind of thing as well. So what makes Boolean unique, what makes us stand out? And here are sort of 6 points that we wanted to talk about. So first off, real professionals, learn from real professionals. What this means essentially is we're not in the game of kind of hiring people that have just finished the course to come and teach the next class. That this has its merits in many ways, but what we found works better is to get people who've got real industry experience, who've been through the wars, they've made some, you know, they've worked on some interesting coding projects to come and teach you. So this is a really important part of what we do. We've been around for 4 years. We've been online for 4 years as well, which is it seems the norm now, but in 2018, it was very much not the norm pre-COVID. We've managed to build a lot of systems in place behind an infrastructure behind our teaching that allows us to be really successful in delivery. Our curriculum, we constantly update. Already between Nico's cohort, cohort 4 and Alex's cohort 5, there will have been some small changes. Between Nico's cohort 4 and cohort 3, there will have been changes. We constantly try and make this iterate and improve, adapt it as we see changes in the industry and in the market as well. Something about not being on your own, what we mean here is sort of at any point during your journey, whether that's the admissions process, whether that's on the course, or whether that's in the careers side of things, there's always somebody from Boolean who's here to kind of give you a hand and help you out. Whether that's the admissions advisor, whether that's your teachers and tutors, or whether that's your placement coaches at the end. We think it's really important to have somebody from our side involved at every stage to make sure that you're successful. A sense of community is important to us. One of the challenges of being online and having people spread out all over the country, indeed all over multiple countries, is it can sometimes feel a bit disparate and a bit of distance between us. So what we try and do is really foster a sense of community. We've used Discord, which you'll have seen on our community server. We actually also use that as our kind of school, if you like. Our academy itself is managed through Discord, and there's a lot of really great features that allows this experience to become quite interactive and for hopefully for people to feel like they're quite close to each other, working with each other every day in the voice channels, speaking to each other, getting to know each other. This is really important. And finally, the Boolean approach. What essentially we mean by this is you're not going to learn data or you're not going to learn to code just by listening to people talking about it. It's really, really important that you get doing it as quickly as possible. And so we have these really sort of short iterations between a little bit of learning and then a little bit of practice, a little bit of learning, a little bit of practice, round and round and round, and then eventually moving on to slightly bigger chunks of practice once you've got the key skills down. And this is a really important approach of how we try and do learning here at Boolean, which Ed's going to talk about in a little bit. We have a video here. Is it going to load? Let me see. If it's not going to load. Oh yeah, that might work. I also just need
my experience so far with Boolean, it's been really good.
The instructors, they're always there to give you a hand.
Yeah, I found the job offers from the company that I never expected.
I worked with lots of different people.
I built a lot of projects.
If you really want to put the work in and change your life, I would 100% say Boolean is a great course to take.
I should have double checked before I played that if you could hear that, but as nobody piped up, I think the sound must have worked okay. That was just a little bit of an intro from some of our students from some of our early cohorts, talking a bit about their experience here. But we've gone even one better and got some real live in the flesh of our alumni. Alex and Nico, thank you so much for joining us today. We thought we'd spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes just having a bit of a chat with both of you about your experience here at Boolean. Please be unfiltered. Please tell us how you've experienced it, and hopefully this will be a really useful experience for the people here that are thinking of joining us to hear from what you've been through. So, Alex, let's start with you. First things first, you're a recent alumni, having finished just last Friday. Is that right?
That's right. So I started in February and then finished last week.
Nice, nice. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing before you joined Boolean?
Sure. So before Boolean, I sort of had a career that was always focused in finance and working in a bank. So coding was something that had always interested me. I was always into computers and when I was younger, computer games. And then kind of combining it with the more finance side, I thought I could sort of make a career through that. So I chose Boolean because I really liked the fact that it was a 6-month course instead of a shorter course. I don't think you can really achieve too much in 2 or I think 3 months would be the bare minimum, and then the really you should be looking, because we're looking to change the your whole career here. So I think 6 months is a perfectly reasonable amount of time to commit to doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. You've I was going to ask you why coding, why Boolean, but you've given a super great comprehensive answer there already, touching on both of those topics. So maybe one thing that would be useful to people to think about is if you can remember what your expectations were before you joined us, and kind of how the course is compared to those, where it's met those, where it's been different. Yes, a little bit about that would be useful.
Sure. So I have to admit, I didn't know a huge amount coming in. I was quite a beginner. So my expectations were that we would go through at a sort of beginner's pace, but quite quick, sort of respecting everyone's time and sort of blast through the beginner stuff and then move on to the more intermediate stuff. And I feel like that's certainly the case. I don't think there's a lot of time wasting in the course. I really like the syllabus is great. It covers everything that I think you need without being repetitive.
Nice. Yeah, I think I've heard one word used by a lot of people is super intense, way more intense than they were anticipating. I think the pace it moves quite quickly, right?
Yeah, it's a quick moving course. If you sort of miss a session, you certainly feel it a bit later on, but the support is there too.
Nice, amazing. Maybe thinking about if you have a particular highlight or something that really stood out over your 6 months with us. Was there one part of the course in particular that you really liked?
Sure. So doing your own project is always a lot of fun because you get to put your own ideas into what you're learning. We do a lot of sort of exercises that are quite structured in order to have specific learning objectives in mind. So when you can, once every couple of months, you can sort of release and show a bit of creativity. That's probably the most fun part.
Awesome. And you're about to start the job hunt, or indeed just starting the job hunt as we speak. What are your thoughts and feelings around that? Where are you at the moment with that?
Obviously, I'm just starting. Graduated on Friday. Took a couple of days off just to relax. So now it's all CVs and interview preparation and portfolio preparation. I think it's going to be quite fun, but I'm someone who naturally doesn't love the kind of interview process, so it might be a bit of a struggle. But I feel confident that I hope I can come across well in an interview.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just be a bit nervous beforehand.
Yeah, they're so hard to shake those interview nerves. I think it's just practice, isn't it? Have you any thoughts about kind of what sort of role or what kind of industry or what kind of career you'd like to go into yet, or are you keeping things open?
Not yet. That's something I'm going to decide over the weekend. I think to tailor my sort of CV and cover letters, interview questions, that sort of thing.
Lovely stuff. Alex, maybe let's wrap up with some words of wisdom that you might give to any budding new coder who's thinking about taking their first steps into either a course like this or just more generally into the tech industry.
Sure. Having a small amount of knowledge in JavaScript to start with will put you in a much better place than if you were just coming in completely not knowing what JavaScript means, for example. Yeah, just there's plenty of free information. This coding week is a good start, and then make sure you just know what is what before you start.
Absolutely. Yeah, get a bit of a head start. That's always a great idea, isn't it? Nice. Alex, thank you so much. We'll pass over now to Nico, if that's all right. Nico, I'm going to ask you similar questions, obviously slightly different in that I know that you've recently accepted a job offer, so we can talk a little bit about that. But first things first, before Boolean, do you want to tell us a bit about what you were doing?
What I was doing before Boolean. So I come from healthcare, and I used to work on ambulances. So I've worked as an ambulance technician for 12 years, and then I moved into nursing, where I've worked in intensive care for 7 years. And then at some point, just after the pandemic, really, I kind of decided that after 19 years in healthcare, I had enough, and I wanted to do something different. I tried a little bit of HTML and CSS before. That was back in 2020, just before the pandemic, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I thought, yeah, I can actually see myself doing this as a job. And then the pandemic hit, so I kind of had to wait a little bit. But then, as soon as we had a kind of a break, I decided to ditch my job and go for it.
Amazing. And we talked a bit about intensiveness of the course, probably a bit of a walk in the park for someone who's been 19 years in intensive care and ambulance work.
Yeah, I guess it's a different type of intensity though, because I don't know, when you do a job for a long time, you kind of go on autopilot. So it doesn't. I don't know. I don't want to sound a bit strange, but I didn't really think towards the end of my career into healthcare, because all the things were exactly the same, and you know, the way you treat patients was always the same. So you kind of stopped thinking I was getting bored, and I needed to challenge myself a little bit, and you know, programming definitely gave me a hand to re-engage my brain.
Yeah, more, maybe less of the sort of like adrenaline, but definitely more of the
no, I don't need any adrenaline anymore. I just need a different type of mental effort.
What about you? What made you decide to join Boolean specifically to kind of take the next steps in your tech career?
I guess 6 months, as Alex said, that was a big point towards you know, joining Boolean. And because I mean, realistically, if you want to work front end, you can probably do it in 3 months. But when you want to cover both front end and back end, 3 months is a time frame that is not too realistic, because there's way too many things to consider and way too many things to understand, and it's just not quite right. But if you want to go front end, then by all means, you know, that's achievable in 3 months, I would say.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I wanted to go full stack, so to me, it wasn't even I wasn't even bothered about other companies. I've seen positive reviews from previous alumni on the internet, on the Italian side and the UK side. So I thought to give it a shot, really. And at the end of the day, it's all about a mental approach to learning and understanding that you're going to enter an area where you're going to have to learn for the rest of your life. And that's probably the hardest part to start realizing, and yeah, it has been challenged, but great experience.
Yeah, this phrase, lifelong learner, growth mindset, these are phrases that get thrown around quite a lot, and the reality of that is, meaning you're in a situation very often where you don't know something, and where it's kind of your onus, your responsibility to kind of do the learning, right, to kind of solve the problem, find the answers, and that kind of constant not knowing and kind of feeling a bit one step behind. I think it's quite a difficult challenge mentally, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That was probably the most difficult part, learning to learn.
Yeah, that meta skill.
Yeah.
And Ed, I know you're a big fan of that. I'm sure we'll hear some thoughts on that at some point today.
Yeah, he has been a superstar from that point of view.
Let's talk about, so you started in November, you finished, I think, in, end of May.
Yeah.
What was one of your highlights of the course?
Understanding JavaScript. Well, getting to understand JavaScript, although nobody really knows how JavaScript works. But no, jokes aside, understanding JavaScript and understanding the existence of frameworks and libraries. So why they exist, what problems do they solve? Because it's something I never really used to understand, but then once you start to, I've watched the lecture yesterday with Tic-Tac-Toe with Nathan, and I've realized I was looking at it and I thought, with React it would be so much easier, because there's less to faff around with DOM manipulation, and actually is way easier to do these things. But so yeah, I would probably say I'm a very artsy kind of person, so probably JavaScript and React for visual effects and stuff like that.
Nice
re-rendering. And
love it. I love that you watched that back with all this sort of like new knowledge as well. That's so funny. Okay, let's talk a little bit. You've obviously got a job offer recently which you've accepted, and you're going to be starting there very soon. Congratulations again. Do you want to talk us a bit through the process of how you went about getting a job, what you're going to be doing, all of that kind of stuff?
Well, I'm going to be brutally honest here. Job hunting has been a very frustrating thing. And it wasn't because of Boolean, it was because of the current, global situation. And I kind of finished my course at an unfortunate time, right in the middle of the Russian-Ukrainian war, and in the middle of recession. So, it wasn't an easy task. Because of my vast knowledge in healthcare, it was probably hard for me to manage to get interviews as well. And I've realized a lot of companies were actually thinking about getting mid to senior developers most of the time. But I guess the secret was just to persevere and keep going and not get demoralized at all, because otherwise, you're never going to do anything. It's the same with everything in life, really. But especially with the job hunt, and you kind of have to say, okay, push yourself and say, okay, I divided my day so I don't burn myself out. So I was doing applications in the morning, coding in the afternoon, but then finishing a little bit earlier than usual, so I could enjoy a bit of a longer evening, let's say.
Nice.
But yeah, I've managed, I don't know, 120, 130 applications in total.
Wow.
And that takes into account the one-click applies on LinkedIn, for example.
Sure.
Yeah, it has been frustrating, but I got there in the end.
Yeah, talk us through. You're starting with indeed with the NHS, is that right? As a developer.
Yeah, that's quite ironic, because I left that employer and then went back to it 11 months after as a developer. So yeah, I will be working for a hospital that is not far from where I live. It's actually where Ed lives. I'll be working from home though, and I'm going to be developing applications for patients and staff. I just had a chat with the line manager this morning. They said I'm going to start on the 22nd, and they said if you want to start familiarizing with a few things, which I'm sure will be helpful, or not, although I'm not getting paid, but this is the time where you have to kind of say, well, okay, I'll start working even if I'm not getting paid, because I'm going to benefit later. And then what else? That's about it, really. I'm actually going to be using, well, React for one, and ASP.NET and MS SQL Server on the other, which I haven't really touched during the course, but it doesn't really scare me, because as long as you do your own example, you come up with your own examples and you try things out, then you kind of get to how things work.
Nice. Absolutely. Yeah. You've learned the kind of basics and the fundamental skills, and those are applicable definitely across other languages. I'm conscious of the time, but maybe let's wrap up with a word on the kind of the careers support, which you obviously got to use over the couple of months that you were job hunting with us. Maybe a little word on kind of how that was, what was good about that, what was helpful.
Well, I guess I was terrible at writing cover letters and looking at job description, job specifications, and things like that. And my CV was completely healthcare and medicine oriented, so that was a bit of I needed a bit of a hand for that. So we've managed to actually transform my CV and make it more techy, and then with the career workshops as well, that was actually really useful, because you kind of talk to your peers and you share knowledge and share experiences, and that's also helpful. And then what else I really enjoyed? Probably understanding how many job portals there are that are tech related, because some of them I wasn't really aware of. So things like Otta or all of those they were completely alien to me. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed everything.
Amazing. Let's wrap up again then with some words of wisdom for any budding new Booleanists or any budding new coders.
Well, just join, and you'll never regret it. And I'm not saying it because I'm here. I'm just saying it because I genuinely believe in Boolean as a product, and it's an experience that will enrich you from a technical point of view, but also from a human point of view. I made really good friends that I've managed to meet in person in London when I went for a job fair, and we had a great fun. And yeah, it was great. I still talk to them at the moment. So just every Friday we set aside a sort of an hour chat to have a catch up about life, about things.
Nice. That's
what's
so lovely.
going on, and maybe cooperating on new project ideas.
Nice. I love to hear that. we're in the works for our second in-person event. We ran one last year that was super lovely, and it's on the cards to be run again this year. So keep an eye out for that. It'd be lovely to have all of you there.
Yeah,
Alex,
that would be great. That would be great.
Nico, thank you so much for that. Alex as well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys joining us. If you want to stick around as well, there might be some Q&A at the end, so feel free to go off your cameras and mute if you want for the time being, but we'll jump in with you at the end. Thanks again. Let's crack on. I think at this point I'm going to pass over to Ed if you want to jump in with this section.
Yes, I'm mid answering a question, so I'm going to pause on that question and turn my attention to you, Patrick, and to everyone here. Okay, context switch, courses and choosing path. Yeah, let's have a look. Cool. So here at the Academy, there are a few routes in front of you to decide what kinds of things you want to study. Two main areas, software development and data analytics. We have two ways you can take our software development courses. You can do the whole thing in 26 weeks full time, 6 months essentially. We have a summer and a winter break where we close the Academy. We're actually closed at the moment in terms of studying. So again, thank you to Nick and Alex for joining us during the summer break. Front-end development course, you can take just the first half. It's a really fun part of the course. I think all parts are fun, but it's a little bit more visual and interactive part of the course. And that's the first 13 or so weeks. And then you can also take our data analytics part-time, which we'll talk in a little bit more detail. So yeah, next slide again. One more. Cool. So let's talk about software development as a very general overview. Software development comprises of a few different fields. Web development is the most common one, probably to your experiences. How do web applications get built? The things that you use on a daily basis, like Twitter, Facebook, Google Mail, and all these kinds of things are web applications. How do they work? Well, by the end of this course, you'll be able to understand how they work and have built something that starts to approximate them. There's a whole deal of complexity that we don't manage to get into, but you understand in a high level how these applications work and be able to build simple versions of them. And there's usually the front end and back end, how we split up the technical stack, the parts of the application you'll work on. And our development course is first the front end, and then we go into the back end. And the kinds of roles you'll be able to get, the whole curriculum, if you do the 6 months, is aligned towards the UK Digital Data and Technology Framework, where we outlined a number of competencies to the role of software developer. And this will allow you to get jobs in those kinds of fields, or even any coding or programming related fields, tech product manager roles, other kinds of QA roles, testing roles adjacent to software development. So there's a whole bunch that's possible. It's not just being able to be a software developer. If you want to go into other industries as well. You can take our front end course in particular, and that opens up roles of being a front end focused software developer. Cool. Next slide. What does it look like? Our full-time course, it's Monday through Friday for 6 months. We start at 9:30. Usually teachers will run some kind of stand-up to say hi to the students, see how everyone is, and then begin any skills sessions, any workshops, any classes that we have in the morning. There'll be sometimes some exercises that you do in pairs for the whole cohort, which will get back together, review, and set up the afternoon exercise where you again practice individually the work that you've done in the morning. So we usually split up the time, morning for group sessions, and in the afternoon individual, or when you get later into some of our team simulation modules, you'll be working in your project team. A couple of things to note for the full course of software development. You have available to you both a future earnings agreement and the money back guarantee. I think Patrick will talk a little bit more about this. But this is our most popular way to take our software development course. Next. You can choose just to do the front end part of this. So as you notice, the main takeaway from the slides is pretty much exactly the same as the software development course. You just stop halfway through, and we don't offer the ability to take or to finance this with a future earnings agreement. But otherwise, it's pretty much exactly the same. Cool. You can see here the kinds of modules that you'll go through when you do the full stack course. We start off with the essentials, a lot of focus on problem solving, debugging skills to be able to write procedural programs and going through the basics of JavaScript. So the first module is super important to help set you up with some skills for the success of the rest of the course. Then we start the front end part of it. We start to understand how to build user interfaces. That speedy introduction that we did on Monday and Tuesday essentially forms most of that first week of that module for user interfaces, by which point you'll be able to replicate some of the really great designs that you see anywhere on the web. Then we go into front-end development, thinking about how applications get made using all three languages, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, going into how we speed up the development using React. And we finish this part of the course with the team simulation, where we've set up essentially a sandbox environment where you have a project, an application that's already existing that you have to, in your team as a whole cohort of students, maintain and extend with the teaching team acting as stakeholders. And so you'll be building for us with workflows and all the normal industry standard processes. It's quite a unique a module at Boolean. To help represent the kind of work that you'll be doing as a software developer as close as possible. Then we switch to the second half of the course where we go back into object-oriented design, some more programming paradigms, some test-driven development, and we think about then the server side. So how do we write application interfaces? How do we store data? What kinds of ways can we store data and query it? And then we go into the second team simulation. So the first one was about working as a front-end team, the second one was working as a back-end team, and then we finish with another individual project. So we go through the whole course, all these different modules to help set you up for success in your first roles. Next. As you can see, the front-end development course is the first half of our full stack course. The other tech route you can go into is our data analytics here at Boolean. If data really interests you, if you like working with tons of data, trying to sort it, aggregate it, find patterns, this is probably a really great option for you. Are you someone who loves Excel spreadsheets and trying to organize your data, creating tables and charts and visualizations and lots of formulas and things like that? This is really great. We offer a part-time course. Roles that we've aligned it towards are things like any kind of BI analyst, business analyst, any kind of junior data science roles as an entry level to get you into those tech roles. Slightly different schedule because it's part-time. It's a 26-week long course, but in the evenings and weekends. So you can see there are two parts to this. You have your classes, which are Tuesday and Thursday in the evenings and every other Saturday. And then you have tutor hours where you can chat to teachers one-on-one and get support for things that you're stuck on Wednesday and Friday evenings and every other Saturday in conjunction. So this is mostly geared to students, prospective students who've already got other commitments, current jobs, studying for various things, to be able to help you along the way here. One thing to note here, yes, you are able to take advantage of our future earnings agreement, but you're not able to take advantage of our money back guarantee. Rough number of hours of commitment is about 10 to 15, depending on how much you put into it. I probably already mentioned this, but all of our classes are live. That means we hold Zoom sessions where you jump onto the Zoom with everyone, cameras on or mics hopefully off. You will be able to watch recordings back later as if the teacher remembers to add recordings to a storage place. Sometimes I forget. But that's how. So it's not like a remote, just remote. It's live remote. That's what we mean by live remote. Here is the course structure for our data analytics course. We start off with an intro, and then you do your first main programming language called Python, which is got a huge community around it, building lots of packages and libraries for data and data science. Then you'll learn how to query data stores using SQL, and you can go through a few processes and strategies to be able to make sense of this data, where you're using statistics and some machine learning. The last part will be to visualize this data. You'll have a look at a few tools and applications to help you pipe that data into a platform and then visualize it and play around with it, and building your final project to showcase the things you've done so far. Cool. So I know I've sped through the different courses available to you. If this is super interesting, please reach out, and we can definitely give you more information and chat more about what these options look like. But thanks for paying attention. Any more questions, throw them in the Q&A. I'll keep answering questions. But otherwise, over to you, Patrick.
Thanks very much, Ed. I think we had a bunch of questions during that part there, so I'm sure there's some stuff you can be cracking on with. In the meantime, let me talk you through the second part of our course. So you've finished your teaching with us, your learning with us, whichever path you chose, and now it's about the career services. And as to echo kind of what Nico said, the hard work doesn't stop here. Finding a job is a job. It's tough work. And this is why we want to try and put as much emphasis as we can as possible on supporting you during this section of the course too. So the career services comprises a bunch of different things. This is a pretty extensive list of all of the things. This always lasts for 6 months after the end of the course. So let me run through some examples. The career resources are documents that are available anytime from the start of the course to the end. We run career workshops every 2 weeks to deep dive on specific skill areas. When you're a job hunter, you'll come to a stand-up twice a week as well to keep some sort of momentum and rhythm and accountability in your weeks. We do one-to-one individual support from careers advisors. These are most useful before interviews, or if you're having trouble with applications, we can help out with interview prep and practice, mock technical interviews, and we can also do some mock application and mock kind of admissions application process as well with you. Obviously, we'll support you with your online profile. That's LinkedIn, CV, GitHub, portfolio, cover letters as well. Interview practice, both technical and non-technical. We'll add your profile to our hiring platform. We'll give you a hand with job application and cover letters, a second opinion on job offers, negotiations. And I think one thing that's always worth talking about is this is going to be an intensive, and I think what's important to know is that the careers team, the careers advisors, take on this role as well of trying to support you and trying to be a bit of a constant support during that part of the journey as well. Zoom told me my internet connection's unstable, so hopefully most of that got through.
I heard you, and I don't know why I stopped my video for some reason, but yes, I heard you, Patrick.
Great, fantastic. And just an example of some of the companies where students work at. There's some names you'll recognize, some names that you won't. There's a real huge bunch of companies that are hiring developers all up and down the UK, also in overseas countries as well, where we've helped some people find jobs as well. Financing the course then. So we have a number of different options. Obviously we have the 3 courses available. It's easiest probably to start with this table, which kind of summarizes everything in a nutshell. So starting with, let's go line by line. Full stack development. This is our flagship 6-month, 26-week course. We have 3 options to pay for the course. This time you can either pay upfront, which means paying for all of the course in one go, which is £9,400. We have an installment price. This is where you spread the cost up to 12 months if you're based in the UK, or 9 months if you're based outside of the UK, which is £9,900. And we have a pay later option, the future earnings agreement, which we've mentioned. I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail in a second. And we also have the money back guarantee. Again, I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail in a second. For front-end development, this is the first half of that course, which is 13 weeks long. Again, you can pay for this course upfront in installments, which is £5,500 or £6,000. We don't have the pay later option, but this is covered by the money back guarantee. And finally, we have data analytics part-time. That's a 26-week course, which, as Ed said, you'll be usually taking in evenings and weekends alongside maybe another job, or maybe some more studying that you're doing. This course is £5,200. The installments is £5,900, and you can use our future earnings agreement, our pay later option, but you can't use the money back guarantee on part-time courses. We also want to offer a discount of saying thank you for coming along to our coding week. We know you've put in a lot of hours this week. I think it'll be almost 10 hours this week if you've come to every session. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. So we wouldn't be here without you. And so just as a little thank you, we will give you 15% discount off any course, any payment method. The caveat is we'll need your applications in by Tuesday at 12. So by next Tuesday at 12. An application I'm going to get to in just a moment. It doesn't mean an interview. It doesn't mean a signed contract. It just means the application form has been submitted on the website. We'll cover that in just a second, but that is available to all of you as a thank you for coming on to the coding week. You will need to mention in your application that you came from the coding week as well, so that we can cross check with your email and verify that as well. So please make sure if you're going to apply and you want the discount, remember to mention that in your application form, please. Okay, the pay later option, study now, pay later. There's quite a lot of text on this slide, so I'm going to try and cover most of it. Essentially, this is for people who don't have the money up front to pay for the course. And the way that it works is you're going to pay a small deposit, which secures your place on the course. Then you're not going to pay anything during the course or during the job search until you find a job after the course. And at that point, you're going to pay a percentage of your income for a fixed amount of months. These repayments are interest-free and they're also capped. There's always a maximum amount. You never pay more than that amount, and you'll never pay more than the number of months, so the maximum number of months. The other really nice thing about it is if you're not earning any money, your repayments will pause. And that's, again, without accruing interest. So the amount's not going to keep climbing up while your repayments are paused there. We've been deliberately a little bit vague here because depending which country you're in, the parameters of these will change ever so slightly. So the best thing to do is apply. When you get to the interview, mention that you're looking at the pay later option and speak to the admissions team who'll be able to give you the full details in detail so you can take those away. Something to note is that we can only currently offer this in select countries, and that means being both a citizen and a resident of the following countries, which are listed at the bottom here, which is the UK, Ireland, Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, Spain, and Sweden. So currently in those countries, we're able to service the pay later option, hopefully adding more in the future, but for now, these are the only countries we can offer this to. That's the pay later option. There might be some questions about that. Please dump them in the Q&A and we'll get to them in a second. The money back guarantee instead, this is essentially us saying we back ourselves, we back the training, we back the admissions process, we back the placement service as well, the career service. And so we think you can get a job within 6 months of finishing the course. If you haven't got a job within 6 months of finishing the course, then we'll give you a full refund of your course fees. There are a couple of eligibility criteria on this. The first one is this is something we're only able to offer for people who are right to work and residents of the UK or Ireland currently. Hoping we can expand this as well, but currently that is only for right to work and resident in the UK and Ireland. The main one really, and the one where most people will fall down if they do fall down, is we need to make sure that you actually did the course. And so the way that the criteria that we use for this is your attendance and your submission of the exercises, which we both want to be 90%. We're very on the ball with this. So if we notice that you're slipping during the course, we will tell you, we will give you a chance to get back on track. We'll put a plan in place to get you back on track. And we'll always give you an option saying, here's your option. If you want to get back on track, follow this plan and you can get back on track. And then it's kind of the ball's in your court if you want to engage with that. So don't worry, it's not going to be at the end of the course, you suddenly find that out. We will keep you posted on this. Of course, during the job search, we need you to actually engage with us. So we have some forms that we ask you to complete, some check-in forms. We ask you to help us track the jobs that you're applying to. Obviously, if you've got interviews coming up, we're going to ask you to do interview practice with us as well. So working with your careers advisor is really important, and this is something that we ask you to do. And then, of course, you need to apply for jobs. So we put 5 a week as a minimum, which is definitely achievable. As we mentioned, it is not applicable for the part-time courses. This is just because we found a lot of people doing part-time courses aren't looking to start a job straight away afterwards. So this kind of becomes a bit null and void. And also for the pay later financing option, because you're not going to pay till you get a job anyway. There's nothing for us to refund. So there's no money back guarantee for the pay later option either. Again, if there's questions, if I've sped through that, then please dump them in the Q&A and we can get to those in just a sec. What
there are
is
a few questions, so we can come back to those in a second, Pedro.
perfect? What is the application process? It starts by heading to the website, boolean.co.uk/apply, hit the apply button in the top corner. You're going to start by filling a very super short questionnaire on the website, which is immediately going to take you to our admissions form. This is the admissions form that you're going to need to complete before the 12th, before the 16th, Tuesday the 16th at 12 p.m. in order to be eligible for that discount. And this is basically going to be some very basic eligibility criteria and a little bit of information about you and kind of why you're applying. Immediately after that, you're going to be taken to a short entry test. This is a bit of a like logical thinking, logical reasoning test, which you'll need to pass. At that point, once you've submitted that, you'll get a notification saying either yes, you passed or no, you didn't. And once you pass, that will be pinged straight to our admissions team. Our admissions team will jump onto that. And they'll get in touch with you to let you book your interview with them. So they'll send you a Calendly link where you can jump in and book it into a call, getting to know you a bit better, answering all of your questions about Boolean, and making sure that if there's anything that you've got any questions or queries about, that we've covered that. And also fundamentally seeing, is this right for you? Right? We don't want you to start the course and realize this is the wrong choice for you. We'd much rather realize that in the admissions interview. So this isn't just about trying to get you onto the course. This is about understanding, is this right for you? And finally, if we both decided that it is, then we'll complete your enrollment by sending you a contract, which you can sign. And once you sign that, you're officially registered as a Booleaner to join our next course. Speaking of which, our next courses are coming up pretty soon in September. We have a software development and a front-end development course kicking off on the 5th. So that's coming up in about 3-4 weeks. And then our part-time data analytics course is kicking off on the 19th of September. These are the dates we have currently coming up. We haven't currently confirmed following dates. There will be obviously following dates, but we just haven't confirmed those yet. So these are the current dates that are available. Great, we wrap that up in about 50 minutes. So we've got plenty of time for Q&A. Thank you, Ed. I know you've been smashing through a lot of those questions already, but now it's over to you. So please,
cool. I'm going to throw some questions at you, Patrick, from...
And let's,
oh, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, thumbs up, cool. I'll throw some questions to you and read them out, but definitely folks keep asking questions if you want. I'm going to start off with Patricia says, how much is it for one of the programs for 6 months for an international student?
Great question. The prices are also available on the website in euros. If you want to jump on there, there's a little toggle switch if you prefer to pay in euros. Otherwise, you can pay in pounds as normal with the same prices that were listed on that table a moment ago.
Fantastic. Anor says, on the website, you said that you helped during the job search. Will you be able to provide this kind of help for students outside of the UK? Smileys. Yeah,
this is a super question. Absolutely, I think fundamentally there's a lot of the key things stay the same, right? You're going to need a CV. You're going to need a good looking LinkedIn, GitHub, and portfolio. You're going to need to do applications. You're going to need to prepare for technical interviews and non-technical interviews. All of these things stay the same really wherever you are in the world. And all of this is services, support that we can provide to anybody. Where we won't be able to help you quite as much as kind of deep knowledge of that market, that specific hiring market, which companies there are, having any contacts potentially at those companies that we won't be able to provide you with. But all of the other stuff, absolutely, we'll be able to support you on.
Amazing. Thank you for that answer. George says, is there some sort of deadline we have to apply for?
Yeah, so for the discount, we said 12 p.m. On the 16th, Tuesday, the 16th of August. For everybody, for all the others, we usually close applications no later than a week before the course date starts. We need obviously time to get your application through, have time to interview you as well to fit that in the week. So the sooner the better. We're coming up pretty close for the software development course, and once spots are filled, spots are filled. So usually ASAP.
Fantastic. Do you have to be 18 to do the course?
You do have to be 18 to do all of our courses currently, yeah.
Fantastic. How much does the software development course?
The software development course is 9,400 up front, 9,900 for installments.
This course, thank you. This course is only for people who lives in the UK or Europe, no? Is it only for people who are in the UK or Europe?
Essentially, we have had occasionally people outside of the UK or Europe, but the vast majority will come from the UK or Europe. The main things here are going to be time zone, language, speaking skills, and also kind of similarities of both education, but also job market as well. So for these reasons, we found that this course works particularly well. It is best suited for people based in the UK or the EU.
Fantastic. A question about the pay later option.
Yeah.
I like how this person has set up the question with that context. Let's say after the course, I would immediately find a job in the tech area and had to go to a minimum wage job, let's say working at a supermarket first. Would you have to pay the course with that money as well?
Yeah, great question. Usually, well, not usually, for all pay later options, there's a minimum income threshold below which you won't be triggered to start the repayments, essentially. So below that number, which is usually around, I think, £24,000. If you're earning that much, you won't need to start the repayments. As soon as you start earning over that amount, i.e. usually when you've got a full-time tech job, that's when you'll trigger the repayments.
Fantastic. In terms of the pay later option, is it the price for pay at once or the pay in installments price?
It's calculated as the upfront price. So for example, for the 9,400 for the software development course, and usually they put the financing providers that we work with a couple of them, they put on a sort of a maximum cap, which is usually a multiple of sort of like 1.2 or 1.3 times that cost, which is the maximum amount that you'd ever pay of the 9,400, calculated from the 9,400.
Amazing. I haven't known that's the registration form yet. There's lots of people asking for registration. I will deal with those. Can you only enroll once a year, or do you accept students at other times of the year too? Do I have to wait until next September to apply if I'm not ready to start this September?
No, you won't. We haven't confirmed dates. We're loosely planning for one later this year, and almost certainly in the early sort of January, February for next year. We haven't confirmed dates yet, but they will be on the website shortly. One
Fantastic.
question, I don't know if we've got any in this Q&A that we can bump to that might be relevant for our lovely alumni that might be able to help out with an answer. Has anyone asked any questions that specifically about experience on the course or anything like that?
I've been answering most of those. Nico, there was one actually here for you. Did you have to do any hackathons or anything? How did you find that process?
Hackathons, well, I haven't done any hackathons, but I'm not sure what they mean with that question.
This was about half an hour ago, so it might be when you were talking about your process for applying for jobs, maybe. It just says, Nico,
like
did you have to do any hackathons, and how did you find that process?
Like coding challenges and things like that.
Mm.
Well, that's very dependent on the company. I was very lucky with the job offer I had, and it was literally just one-off interview, and I was offered the job. But I didn't have to do any task or anything like that. I guess they probably looked at my GitHub profile, and during the interview I talked about some of the projects I worked on, and they were probably satisfied with that, so they didn't even bother asking me. Big mistake. No. No.
I can elaborate on that slightly by talking about just to use an example of maybe two other students that have recently been hired. One of them ended up going through, I think it was a 4-stage process, which involved a kind of first call with a recruiter, a technical test at home, a kind of a chat about that technical test plus some technical questions in an interview, and then a final stage with some of the senior leadership team. This is a very, very, very common interview process. Another person who recently got hired went to a assessment day where I think they were together with about 20 other people. They went into the office for the day, and in the morning they did a pair programming with one of the senior developers, and in the afternoon they did actually do a hackathon. It wasn't a coding hackathon, it was more of a how would you approach this problem? How do you approach this sort of like this technical problem, but without getting into the coding? More like a planning process sort of hackathon. And I think they were meant to have a follow-up interview on a separate day with senior leadership, but they got made the offer straight after the assessment day instead. But just to give you an example of some of the different types of interviews that can happen.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask another question. What level of role and salary does the full-time software dev course prepare you for? Would you be going into an apprenticeship, entry-level type role afterwards?
Yeah,
Patrick,
great.
do you feel you want to take that on? Otherwise, I'll take it on. You answer it first.
I was going to say, yeah, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts too, Ed. There are people who have definitely gone into, you could definitely go into an apprenticeship role after this if you wanted to. Apprenticeship roles can vary wildly. I have seen apprenticeship roles that are 35, 36, 37, 38,000 pounds. And actually pretty lucrative, pretty good deals. You know, you get 2 years of guaranteed work and training and a very decent salary. At the other end of the spectrum, you can get 18k and sort of like left to your own devices. And there could be some pretty terrible ones out there. Typically, we'd be aiming you as a kind of junior software developer, junior full stack developer, junior front end developer, junior back end developer. These are the main roles that we'd be aiming you to go into within the salary banding of between 25 and 35,000 pounds. I think currently our kind of low and high is maybe 22 is the lowest and 54 I think is the highest from people that have been hired. Just to give you an idea of the spread of things you can go into afterwards.
Fantastic. I think it's a good enough answer, really, Patrick. Well done.
Thanks, Ed. Seal of approval.
A couple questions. I'm 18, living in the UK for over 10 years, and nationality is Italian. Am I eligible for the course?
Yeah, absolutely. You're eligible for the course. For the financing options that we have available, you should be fine for all of them, I think, if you're applying for the full stack software developer course, or obviously you'd be available for the ones that are available for each course, if that makes sense. For example, the Pay Later is not available for the front end course, but you'd be available for the other ones.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I can't see any issues with that.
Trying to find any more interesting questions that maybe apply to lots of people rather than just a few.
You're an Italian citizen, are you? Living in the UK for 10 years?
7, yeah.
7. There you go.
8, actually, yeah. Yeah.
Living proof you can do the course.
Living proof, yeah.
We've got a recent question. Would you need to prepare before starting the course? Would we need any tools and software, and would we need to learn anything for preparation?
Yeah, I mean, Ed, I'm sure you've got some thoughts on this one. Go on, you take this one.
Okay, Lily, thank you for the question. Would we need to prepare anything before starting the course? A couple things spring to mind. The main success indicators for students is essentially non-technical. Definitely they correlate, but the non-technical skills are things like being able to learn quickly, being able to persevere, be diligent, be okay in adversity, or okay when you're uncomfortable. So dealing with these different situations, because this is what happens a lot when you're learning something new, when you're encountering lots of new information and having to apply it on a timeline, because we have a timeline of 6 months. So all of these non-technical skills and behaviors are super important. So yes, it's all well and good being able to have done a little bit of practice and sort of got on the free coding resource to see whether you actually like programming. That is also a huge part of this. Do you like to solve problems using a programming language? If you do, fantastic. Definitely this is going to be a course that you're going to enjoy. So non-technical skills and do you enjoy it? So playing around and just making sure that you know what the gig is going to be. So I think those would be the main things I would stress as like things to think about and prepare. Yes, there are, as I said, some exercises you can do or online to just practice, and specifically JavaScript. I think Alex actually mentioned this earlier on in the session to say practice that. But there's no real need to go be proficient in anything before you begin, as long as those non-technical skills and enjoyment is there. Because the biggest success indicator is your ability to learn and learn quickly.
If I can just say something, I knew zero JavaScript when I started the course, so you don't really need to know anything really. If you do, is an advantage, obviously, but if you don't, I'm sure they'll cover it during the course.
Great question, and thank you for the addition, Nico. Cool. Patrick, do you want to select a couple of questions?
Yeah, I have a quick flick through the Q&A, shall I? The timing of the lessons, that's one that's been asked quite a while ago. With the timing of lessons, I currently have 6 days on, 4 days off, and then the 6 days I spend 2 working evenings and 2 working nights. Okay, I guess, I don't know if that's a question. Something about disability friendly, interesting. I'm not sure, Kaiju Mari, are you asking if the courses are adapted for people with different abilities, or are you asking if there's any courses specifically about focusing on helping people with disabilities? It's a good question either way. Let me see. Oh yeah, okay. Would it work if a student has special needs, like different explanations, like a student with autism? Have you been touching on some of these questions in the chat, Ed, already?
I've tried to, yes.
Maybe we can talk for a minute about that.
Is this the question from Kaijimaru?
This is another one from Joanna, which is, would it work if students have special needs, like
cool. Yeah, I'll answer this one at the moment. Essentially, the way that I've constructed the learning environment here is we're going to be accessible to everyone. However, we are essentially at the beginning of this journey of trying to think about how we can support different kinds of learners. So if you have any particular needs or ideas about your learning environment, please get in touch with us, book in a chat with the admissions team, or reach out to me directly, and we can have a look and see whether we're yet ready, able to support you at this moment in time. It might not be now, it might be in 6 months' time or a year's time as we start to expand all the support structures in place. But we are keen to be as accessible as we can be to allow all kinds of learners join us, because I believe in the plurality, the diversity of different kinds of people, making it an incredibly rich learning environment for students. So I think that's the perspective that I have on this.
Awesome. I think that's really useful to talk about, really useful to cover. It's definitely something that's front of mind for us. I can see one from Ian that's specifically talking about the pay later option. Does the % of your monthly income take into account tax? No, this is from your gross income, % of your gross income. And does it stop once you've paid the amount for the course you chose? It stops under 3 conditions. The first condition is that you've reached the maximum number of repayments. Let's say, for example, that this is on average 30, 35. So you've reached the maximum number of repayment months. The second condition on which it stops is that you've repaid the maximum amount. So we talked about that cap, which is usually calculated as a multiplier of the upfront course. So let's say, for example, the upfront course is 9,400 and the cap is 1.2 or 1.3 times that. If you reach that number before the maximum of repayments, then you stop paying. Or the third condition in which you'd stop is if you haven't made all of your repayments within a set time frame. So I think it is 7 years. If you haven't finished repaying in 7 years, it just stops and wipes whatever debt you had left. It's a little bit tricky, that one. It's useful to spend a little bit of time with an admissions advisor to go into a little bit more detail, especially in specific cases. So if that interests you, I would really encourage applying and speaking to the admissions team, because they can go into a lot more detail on it. Ed, I think you're already typing an answer to this one from Jerome, which is if any alumni went ahead to start their careers as a startup of their own company. So I thought it was interesting to talk about.
Was I haven't yet replied to it, so please answer it. Yeah,
I think from what we've seen from the graduates here at Boolean, we haven't seen anyone go into currently into starting up their own company. Within the sort of general space of tech boot camps, tech training, this is definitely something that I've seen in previous companies that I've worked at and at competitor companies that we've worked at. There are some that are a little bit more focused on this. If you definitely want to be an entrepreneur, the one that springs to my mind is Founders and Coders, for example, which is a charity that takes, I think, sort of 5 or 10 people in every year. You absolutely can. We don't necessarily cover the skills of entrepreneurship here on the course, but if you're an entrepreneur who's looking to add coding skills to your repertoire, then this is absolutely a course that can help you do that. There's one here from Aisha. Does it mean that the part-time course, I think you mean the part-time data analytics course, it isn't directed at students, but it's more about refining and upskilling already acquired skills? I think this is a really great question. We're definitely seeing a slight difference in the applications from the full-time courses and the part-time courses. I think a lot of people on the part-time courses are definitely looking to add a new string to their bow, add a new skill, maybe looking to stay within their own job and just add data analytics as an additional skill. This is absolutely, a fantastic route and a fantastic reason for it. We are also definitely seeing people who are looking to retrain into data analytics, but they just don't have the time or the ability to quit their job right now and commit to it full time. So that's the reason that we've done it as a part-time course, and we are seeing both sets of people come through, but more so more people who are just looking to add this as a skill rather than on the full-time courses where the vast majority of people are looking to start a new career. Nice. Is the monthly repayment period only fixed up to no longer than 12 months? Michelle, currently, yes, if you're in the UK, we can go up to 12 months with one of our financing partners that we work with. Outside of the UK, we're not able to service that, so we can just do our normal standard one, which is 9 months. The financing partner that we work with are talking about doing a longer product, which I think is going to be maybe 40 months or something, but this hasn't happened yet, and it probably won't be until next year, I don't think. Any others that are relevant for people? Joel's got an interesting one here about coding. I've done some free online courses. When I follow the courses, I do well and I keep up with everything. But once I leave the course setting and start coding with a fresh page, all my knowledge flies out the window. I wonder if this is a familiar feeling for Nico and Alex. When you're doing the tutorials, it all seems very easy, and as soon as you open up your own page, it all disappears. It seems there are so many different things and rules of each language that need to be known. Do developers memorize all the syntax and the different lines possible, or do they simply become so well versed that they can remember them quickly? I wonder if you've got some thoughts on this, Nico and Alex.
Well, I have no memory whatsoever for syntax. My strategy to learn things is to understand how things work, and then replicate it by using documentation or coming up with my own exercises. I'm currently learning Python, and I'm finding it quite easy, purely because it's always the same things, arrays, objects, loops, switch, etc. And the best way I can describe it is, if I say I'm Italian, so if I want to say hello in Italian, I say ciao, but if I have to say it in English, I have to say hello. So the meaning of the word is always the same. I just need to understand what syntax I have to use, and that's why documentation exists. So I just go on python.org and find out how to write a for loop, and then I'll just forget about it, because if I don't use it, then I don't retain it, but that's okay, because that's what the documentation's for.
Absolutely, yeah. Great answer, great thoughts. Alex, I don't know if you've got anything to add as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a familiar feeling, especially from before the course. I think having the instructors there, because there's only so much that a computer can teach you about about coding. I think sometimes you do need a bit of human teaching. Yeah, and you'll sort of form your own understanding of the more complicated things to do with coding, and I think that's something that you need a human to teach you.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed, I don't know if you also have any thoughts on this generally, this topic of kind of tutorials versus kind of self-learning.
Yeah. Look, you can learn to learn how to program, to be a software developer all by yourself. There is absolutely no need to take one of these courses. But what you do and gain by taking this course is time. Time, and in a few different ways. Time, because we are able to tell you what's important to know, what's not important to know. Time to be able to show you the experience of working with others in a team environment, and some of the industry standard practices that you aren't able to access easily by yourself. And so these courses are aimed for people who are super work focused, job focused, and being like, I want to get a job as a software developer to work in a modern team. And that's what we built this entire course for. If you just want to learn to program, this is still a course absolutely you can take, and you'll be able to achieve it. But you probably also will be able to do that yourself, just going into some free resources and learning it. But you won't as easily be able to understand what you're doing wrong, the style, the paradigms that you're using, and things like that. So there's a lot of value in this course, depending on what your goal is. Almost everyone who joins us on the course as students say that they want to get a job. And that's what drives a lot of people here. I think that's all I'm going to say about that.
Cool. Nice. There was a couple more that I think I was going to cover here. There's a couple of questions around if you need to skip or miss a class. Ed, I don't know if you want to talk through the process there.
Skipping or missing class, like, it's 6 months, so life's going to happen. You're going to have weddings and celebrations and birthdays and whatnot. So missing sessions is absolutely fine. But as I think both Alex and Nico have mentioned, the course is not slow. We do a lot and cover a lot, and we push you to make sure you're learning and getting to the right standard, ready to be able to be productive in your jobs. That's why we're 6 months, not 3 months, like some other coding school establishments. So what does that mean? It means as long as you're prepared, committed, and you're able to communicate what's happening and keep up to date with your learning, absolutely you can take as much time as you need. There are some students who have like short, 2-day breaks because they have to go do other things. That's absolutely fine. But it just means you have to catch up. And sometimes that can be a tough thing to do. All everything's recorded, so you access all the recordings and access all the teachers as normal in the afternoons. So it's just on you to catch up.
That's awesome. Got a couple more here. Where did I put them all? That was about the oh yeah, that was that one. There was one here about earnings. Can we talk about earnings, please, after training, after experience? Renata, typically after the course, we'd say the banding that you're probably in, depending on where you are in the world and in the UK, is between the £25,000 and £35,000 mark. Indeed, the £31,000 average salary is a testament to that. Typically at the start of your career, and especially software developers at the start of their career tend to move around a little bit more, usually once a year, maybe once every 2 years. And typically you'll start to see that your salary can increase quite quickly at the start before sort of eventually kind of tailing off around sort of mid-senior level. So starting around the 25 to 35, but moving up to the sort of 30 to 40, 35 to 45, 40 to 50, 50 to 60 relatively quickly within sort of, between 2 and 4 years, depending on your own progress, the companies that you apply to, etc. But just to kind of give you a rough idea, that's a rough overview. There's also a ton of free tools online. I think Glassdoor, I think it might be called PayScale, I think it's called, are quite interesting to give some more information on this area as well, if you want to look into those. I had a great question here as well from Anya to the alumni. How did you like Discord as a studying platform, and if you had any previous experience with Discord?
Yeah, it's super easy to use. I didn't have not on any other channels or anything, and I just picked it up. It's quite simple. Yeah, no complaints.
Awesome.
Yeah, same for me. I wasn't using it before, but I've opened Pandora's box and found thousands and thousands of channels. I'm now a member of thousands and thousands of channels about anything, about Linux, about JavaScript, about 3D printing, whatever.
Nice.
Yeah,
there's a lot of communities. I think particularly in the gaming community, it's pretty huge. But it's I remember the first time I saw it, I was a little bit scared, but it becomes very intuitive very quickly. And now I find it very, very simple to use. I had a question about from Shah Noor here. After completing the course, receiving a certificate, but not finding a job after, what can I be doing in the meantime whilst I'm applying for jobs to gain experience, or I guess more generally to improve your chances of finding a job? I guess Nico in particular, you might have some good tips here on what worked for you to kind of help make you more employable.
Yeah, I've basically been working on personal projects. I have noticed that there was a fair amount of companies asking for Vue.js. So given my experience with React, I just went online and had some tutorials about Vue and built a quick application. It was just a front-end application, but it was just to give me an idea of how Vue worked. And I built that in 2-3 days probably. So it's just to emphasize that, even if something is new, it's not necessarily difficult. And the course gave me, the fundamental blocks to build further knowledge, to expand my knowledge.
Nice. Amazing. Yeah, I think using projects as a way to keep learning, essentially, not just building a project for the sake of building a project, but using it as a learning opportunity for whatever that might be. Maybe it's just to kind of cement some knowledge you've already learned. Maybe it's to learn something new. Maybe that new thing is a technology. Maybe that new thing is a concept or a skill like TDD, for example. But being able to then take that to present that on your portfolio, on your CV, and to talk about it at an interview, not just as a project that you made, which often is kind of secondary, but more as the reasoning behind it, what you were trying to get out of it. This demonstrates a lot of really great skills to the employer. The main one being that you've got initiative and drive to kind of, you spot a gap in your learning and you go and fix it under your own sort of steam. This is the number one thing that they're looking for, right? They know you're a junior. They know you have tons of knowledge gaps. They know that you're going to need to learn a lot. So someone who's coming in and being like, I spot gaps and I go and do something about them, that's like literally the most valuable thing that they could have. And so using projects in this way, I think is definitely the most, probably one of the most impactful things that you can be doing alongside your job search to get yourself ready to be hired. I was just about to ask Ed one, but you've just dropped off camera. So let me
I don't know why. I don't actually do anything, but I am here.
Oh, cool. We've had 2 questions asking, what does a full stack developer do on a daily basis?
Oh, what do they do on a daily basis?
Got...
they go on Reddit and watch cat videos. No, I'm joking. Fantastic question. What do they do on a daily basis? Any number of things. Typically, a time is spent looking at the work to do in the morning, and making sure you feel prepared for the work, or continuing on any feature you're currently building. Maybe going back and checking the requirements with whoever owns them, whether it's part of the internal business or external, making sure you're doing the right thing, building the right thing the right way, getting some feedback, and then implementing it. Looking up documentation, researching, debugging, trying to understand why your code isn't working the way it should be, finding that errant semicolon or typo, and fixing it, maybe waiting for a more senior member of your team to review your code, implementing those bits of feedback, and then seeing your code slowly get absorbed into the main code base. It might be meetings that you're in to discuss the team's work, retrospecting with the team, planning with the team. These are the kinds of the main things you'll be doing in your job as a junior software developer.
Nice. I'm conscious of the time. I said that I'd answer this one, which was, if you have any tips on learning Python, please, from Linton. I think maybe just quickly, generally getting an introduction to any programming concept or language. There's some great free tools, Code Academy, Free Code Camp, great places to start, to get to wet your teeth, to see if you're wet your whistle, mixing up my sayings here. Great places to start to get an idea for it. If you're kind of looking to get more into it and more in depth, then probably looking at longer, more intensive courses is your best bet, unless you have previous coding experience. The other one I had here was, and then maybe one to finish with, I don't know if it's just disappeared, but from, I think it's from Gonzalo, asking to the two alumni, how long did it take for coding to click in your head?
Well, I think that it's important to realize that coding, it's an ongoing learning experience. So it's not really something that clicks. It's just something you add and add and add until. But in terms of the basics, the JavaScript took probably about a month to click.
Nice.
For me, it still hasn't clicked. No.
Okay, you got a job.
Well, no. Yeah, I would say probably, probably the same, 2, 3, 4 months, depending on what I'm learning. Then it's an effort that you make, and then after that is all, well, I wouldn't say it's all downhill, but it gets easier.
There's something that we'll talk about on your first day of the course. I think it's known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, or in kind of plain terms, you don't know what you don't know. And usually there's this period of like, oh, I'm learning loads of stuff. And then there's this moment when you're like, oh my God, there is so many things that I don't know. You've kind of learned enough that you now know all of the things that you don't know. And this occurs probably around a similar sort of time frames that you've been talking about there, Nika and Alex. And then you kind of feel back almost to square one, if not kind of lower than square one, because there just seems to be so much stuff. And it's this journey then of kind of realizing that you are actually getting insanely better every day, even if it feels like there's a lot out there. But tech's a huge industry. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly growing. There's constantly new stuff being added as well. So it's a constant feeling of, it's a constantly learning industry, a constantly evolving industry. And what's interesting is to speak to, CTO and head of engineering, and to see that they are still learning new things as well. Even if they've been in the game for 15, 20 years, there's still tons of stuff for them to learn too. So don't feel like you're on your own as a junior developer, because everyone in the industry could and should be learning something, should be learning something new. I think we are coming close up to time, and one of the questions I saw here was, why would I pay the extra price versus your competitors, which I thought was a really good one to maybe, if not close out on, then maybe to be one of the penultimate ones. I think this is a really, really great question. And I think I'd probably start this by saying to do your research, to take a look at everyone who's out there. Each course, each camp, each academy has its differences, has its different ways of doing things, has even its different sort of like ethos and vibe. And you'll get to know the one that feels right for you, I think, by speaking to them. For us specifically, kind of rewinding, back to the first, I guess maybe the first thing I'd say is we try to price this as fairly as possible. So if you go sort of like per hour, per week, we're super, super competitive and definitely not extra compared to the other competition out there. But kind of going back to the start, what we care about is delivering a great online learning experience and supporting people to find jobs. And this is kind of the crux of what we do, right? So it's about teaching you skills, not just to get you a job, but also that will help you onwards in your career. Things like learning to learn, understanding, how to approach problem solving, how to approach coding. These are things that set you up for success for your entire career, rather than just trying to get you a job. And we think these are really important to focus on, even more so than, actually learning syntax and stuff, which we've kind of touched on already. So I think this is a real core focus of what we do. I think the infrastructure that we have behind us really allows us to be successful in delivering this. And I think a strong focus on making sure that what we do is tied to industry, tied closely to industry, and relevant skills for companies. I think that's, for us, is the main things why we think we stand out. I don't know, Ed, if you want to add anything.
I think you covered it pretty well.
Nice. Ed, are you seeing anything else in here that'd be useful to pull out as a kind of final question?
No, I think we've done. We've asked a lot of questions, and there's still more. So we'll probably spend a minute or two just wrapping up some answers. Thank you all for the questions. It's been really, really nice to have lots and lots of questions and to see hopefully some of those answers getting back to you. So I think we're probably ready to wrap up.
Great. What I'd say then is, if you have something burning, something specific as well, then please feel free to email hello@boolean.co.uk. We'll definitely get back to you. You can also book a call with our admissions team as well. I think that's in the footer of our website or on the apply page. If you're not ready to apply straight away, there's an option to book a call. So you can request a call from the admissions team if you want to chat specifically. If you're kind of already thinking you're ready to apply, then if you're ready to change your life, we couldn't do a presentation without getting cheese at the end. Then do head to the website, do start your application. If you can get it in before Tuesday at 12, we can give you that 15% discount, and we'll be able to speak to you in much more detail about all of your questions, all of the course information at the admissions interview that you'll book. I think all that's left to say really now is a huge thank you to everybody for making the time on a hot Thursday afternoon when you could be out in the sun drinking Pims. Really appreciate you sitting with us. A huge thank you to Nico and Alex, also, who could have been sat out in the sun drinking Pims, for giving up your afternoon to sit with us and share some really useful thoughts and advice with people that I know would have been very useful. Ed, of course, as always, for being here today and every day this week. And just the final thing is to invite you to the final session of Coding Week, which wraps up tomorrow, Friday, 5 o'clock. We'll be building Space Invaders. It's going to be friggin' awesome. I can't wait for it. I'm sure lots of you can't too. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evenings, and we'll be looking forward to seeing lots of you there tomorrow.
Awesome, folks. See you tomorrow.
Take care, everyone.
See you. Take care.
Bye, Nico. Bye, Alex. Bye, Ed.